mean, Bordeaux is the nearest place that anyone's heard of. I would show you outside. I'm literally in a forest, quite near a big lake, close to the ocean. Bordeaux is about 45 minutes away if you drive, but it's very rural. It's the exact opposite of London, which is where I lived for 50 years.
I'm thinking of that television personality song about Sid Barrett. Just kind of living in the woods with all the elves.
Yeah, so that's what I do. I live in the woods with all the elves and the warthogs and the owls and everything else. So it's a bit of it's been a continuous shock to the the city veins that run through my body. But yeah, you adapt. You adapt or die.
I can relate to a certain extent, not quite as extreme, but I was in Queens for the last 20 years, living in the city, and I just moved up to Hudson Valley, so I'm about 2 hours north. And for me, I don't know if you had a similar reaction, but it was one of those, why didn't I do this 10, 15 years ago kind of situations.
Yeah. No, I just go with the flow. And the flow went this way because, for other things, not because of my own personal choice, but I'm not unhappy with the situation. I mean, there's always negatives. I happen to use the internet, but, I lived in London for 50 years. I think that's quite enough. City dwellings. Something right now. I have to tell you, I'm sweating. I'm glad you can't smell me. It's 37 degrees for the 5th day in a row. It's just not what I'm used to. But if I look outside, it's very beautiful. It's very rural. It's very green. And, you just accept the thing you have and enjoy the good bits. The good bits about it.
Yeah, I'm also in a similar boat. I had to get this. It also gets very humid here. This is AC unit I had to get because mine broke down recently. So I'm in it's a very similar. I don't know what the conversion rate is, but it's been getting up to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh yes, I forget. I always forget you lot.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say 37 degrees, I mean that's hot. That's hotter than you would find in London. At the peak of summer, you wouldn't get that. So.
Yeah, I was in London. A couple of weeks ago. Work brought me there, and it was nice because I could just rent a bike, and it's a very bikeable city. But it was actually much hotter than everything I'd known about London.
Yeah, well, the world's ending, so if all these things happen, and we're going to melt or freeze. I always remember those. Twilight Zone episode about whether it was would you prefer to live in a world that was totally frozen or boiling hot? I think I'd rather freeze than boiled ones.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's fair. You can always, it's easier to put layers on than it is to take them off. Yeah,
and you jump up and down. And that's all.
So, but again, a question a lot of people have been asking me after my move. But have you answered this a little bit? But have you enjoyed the change of pace, generally speaking?
But I don't enjoy. Everything has its pros and cons. So
sure,
you just become different. Everything becomes different. I obviously used to just everything. You have options. And you can see that was the thing. When I lived in London, I had a multitude of friends, close friends or not so close friends, and you could see them every day if you wanted to, but you didn't because you just did your own thing. And then when you're in this situation where I have literally no friends, and all your friends are hundreds of miles away, suddenly you're oh wow, I'd kill just to spend half an hour with a beer talking about shit. About what's your favorite Birds album, or whatever, so on. And so it's only when you go on to the other side that you think about the things that you take for granted, maybe. But then again, when I was in London, I couldn't just sit in a garden and just there's no one around. There's no traffic. There's no, so, swings and roundabouts, as they say.
When I was in the city, for about 20 years, and I remember that even just the idea of going between boroughs, just the idea of going from Queens to Brooklyn felt like forever. And now it takes at least an hour for me to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
I can't believe like how sort of, I guess how spoiled you get when you're in a situation like that.
Yeah, but you just adapt to your own surroundings, and then changes, and you should change. It's like you can't get too comfortable in life. Like it's dull. So you kind of jab it it's like getting, you jab something into something, and then it changes, and you alter, and you see a different part of your own personality and how you adapt to this totally different world. I'm, I don't want to show you, but I'm wearing shorts right now because it's fucking hot, and there's no way on earth you would ever see me wearing shorts in London. You just adapt. That's not a good example, but it's the example I'm giving you.
Yeah, obviously that's a practice. I am also wearing shorts for the same exact reason, but
Americans love shorts, so.
I used to not be, for a long time, I wouldn't be a shorts guy. And then I moved up. I think it was similar. Moving up here, I'm like, nobody's going to see me anyway. Who cares?
Yeah, well, that's my attitude now. I don't, like I say, I don't know anybody. I barely communicate with other human beings apart from the two that I live with. So I don't give a fuck. Why? Because it will happen. So I've also had that attitude now of like, fuck it, I don't care. It's just like a bunch of rural French people, and I don't care what they think about me. I quite like that. It's quite a freeing thing. I mean, it's not like I walk down the street with a tiger's headdress on and, beating a drum or anything, but I just don't care about, and in London, any big city, you feel the eyes upon you, and people judging you, and, stereotyping you. And there's a certain amount of, if you're somebody who's quite introverted, you think about it. And then suddenly it's like, I'm an alien here anyway. I might as well just like do what I want. So.
In a funny kind of way, I think I've had a little bit of the opposite experience in that there's an anonymity that comes with living in London or New York, right? You're one of 1,000 people they'll see that day. And here, the thing that dawned on me really quickly that I'm like now trying to be very mindful of is it's a small town. I mean, I had to go today. I had to get a building permit and then get that signed by a notary public for my air conditioning system. It was all in the same building, and then I keep running into the same people over and over again. So, in a certain sense, like it's far less anonymous and it's far more personal when you're moving to a small area.
Perhaps, but I think it's just your the way, the way you look at it changes.
This idea of finding new parts of your personality is intriguing to me. Have you discovered anything new about yourself?
Probably, but I haven't. I haven't dwelt on it particularly. Yeah, maybe one day.
Maybe it's too fresh, or maybe it's the kind of thing that when you're in it, you don't really notice. But I mean, largely speaking, you've enjoyed the experience so far.
Yeah. I mean, there's like I say, pros and cons. But I mean, right now I'm quite happy. But actually, no, today I wish I was in London because it's probably raining, and I'd be really happy. But it's so hot. But yeah, it's different. I don't. You can't really. I mean, that's the thing. So many people live their entire life in the same place, in the same routine, the same monotony, and they kind of want to because they're scared of what happens if it changes. And they're terrified of that kind of aspect of, there'll be different things. So I think you have, at some point in your life, you have to kind of tear that apart and just see what happens. And sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes it does. but you might as well try it. And if I'm going to completely go tear my life into a different position, I might as well be in a forest near a lake in the ocean. It's where it's always sunny and hot. It's not the worst thing.
For you, why is it important to, I guess as we would say, move outside of your comfort zone?
Because the comfort zone. It's like, what's the, I mean, musically, that's the thing. You could pick up and you have your four or five favorite chords, and these are the the Ramones. The Ramones spent their entire career in a comfort zone. And that's one of the good things about them in a way, because that if you're going to put on a Ramones record, you kind of know what to expect. The production values might be slightly different, but it's going to be the Ramones. But, then you have someone else who's, like, I know, I've done that. I've done the 3-chord, 2-chord kind of rama-lama-lama. Let's try something different. I'm loath to mention that the Beatles, it was like they kept evolving from their comfort zone, and that makes it more interesting. And it's the same with any, writers and so on, is that, you find a comfort zone and you either stay there, and people like that because it's that's the kind of thing about it that they enjoy, is that there's 20 records by this band and they all sound the same, and I like that. Or they evolve. You don't always like it. I mean, there are artists I like that it's like, I didn't like it when they went electronica, but at least they gave it a go, kind of thing. So, it's like that in life. Expand that out to real life, and there's the blueprint.
Yeah, I suspect that creatively, maybe it's similar to moving in that once you're in the new place and you're acclimated, it's still nice to go back and visit every so often and maybe tap back into that old creative well.
Well, when I moved here, I was presuming, because I lived in London, and it was very urban. It's very, concrete and cars and noise and potential violence and all these different things, and what you're creating, your music kind of sometimes reflects that. And then one of the things I was scared about is, like, when I moved here, it was like, shit, I'm going to start making hippie records, because it's also kind of quiet and nice and gentle and beautiful. And if I'm going to be honest and reflect that, I'm just going to make all these, but luckily there's still these parts of you that are, rooted in something else. So yeah, there probably are, since I've lived here, I'm probably more in touch with my folky side, or whatever you want to put it. But you just have this stuff inside you that just can't help but burst out.
I think that maybe a misconception is people feel like when they move to a new place that's going to radically change them for the better.
No, because you are, you grew up in a certain way, and it's part of you. It's the blood that runs through your veins. It's, you can't just get rid of that by living somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the anxiety and the depression are like, oh, I can just find new places to project that onto.
Yeah. I mean, you do have like songwriters or whatever, where you can kind of tell where they lived by the sound of the records. So you're like, oh, that must have been when he moved to. I can't actually think of any examples, but when he moved to California, his music got slightly more kind of,
Laurel Canyon.
Yeah, exactly. But was that because they just, because that actually affected the way they felt, or was that because it was like, well, I live in Laurel Canyon now, so I better start making this kind of music, and these are the musicians around me, and so on. So it's difficult.
That's what I would suggest. It's the third. It's the people that you're hanging out with. They influence the music, but you don't really have that problem right now because you're not really hanging out with anybody.
No. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the musicians I am still connected to are the same. They live in Hackney and whatever in London, and running away from muggers in the night. So yeah, their music is still going to be quite kind of brutal or whatever.
Well, as we were saying earlier, it's that thing of taking it for granted when you live there and you have all these people knowing that, oh yeah, it's, I'll be able to see them next week. But when you were in London, did you feel like you took advantage of that as far as being around musicians and playing with other musicians?
No, you don't think of it like that. I mean, also it's like, but if you actually sat down and looked at your friend, here are my friends on Facebook or whatever, and these are my actual friends. You just, and I'm in my 50s, and I started making friends when I was 16, 15, and nearly everyone you made friends with was because of the connection to music, because you met them at concerts, and you like the same, you like the Shop Assistants or whatever, so let's be friends. You know, and then you grow up and you grow older, and a lot of those people become musicians themselves. I have a lot of my friends from America because of when we were kind of cool rock stars, and there's the American labels, and we played America a lot. You make friends with other kindred spirits, and over time, most of those bands have broken up because it's just a natural thing. And then you realize, oh no, I don't see them anymore. It used to be that every year, twice a year, I would see whoever, because they would go on tour. They would play in the UK, or we would play with them in America. And it's the problem with being friends with musicians is at some point, those people stop being musicians, and then you don't have that kind of, guaranteed twice a year. I'm going to see you because you're going to do a tour of London. They're all going to play London. So it's like people like, I think example. I mean, you've got people like Ian Svenonius, who, the makeup. And I've known Ian for a very long time. And the good thing about Ian is he's always making music, and he's always doing something, and he's always touring. So I know that I will see Ian Svenonius once or twice every single year. So you're
one of his 15 bands will be by.
Exactly. So your friendship will continue. And it's in a very kind of piecemeal way. And you contact, obviously, the beauty of social media is you can write to your friends anyway, whatever they're doing. But there's that thing, that physical thing of like, if Ian stopped making music tomorrow, I wouldn't see him anymore. Unless I directly kind of went, I'm going to go to Washington and go and say hi to him. I can't afford to do that, and it's not likely. So, there were a lot of people where you just take for granted, these are my friends, this is my circle of friends. And then that person stops doing the thing they're doing. And a lot of, in other walks of life, that probably wouldn't happen because you have that connection with the people because of other reasons. So, it's a good thing that you become friends because you share a common enjoyment or passion or whatever. But, I don't know. And that's the thing about longevity. And we've been a band for 30 years. So, but we don't really tour. So that's the thing. So all those people out there, all my friends out there who are expecting to see me like twice a year, it's not going to happen because I barely leave the county lines.
Could Comet Gain break up?
No. Well, yeah, of course I could. I never thought of it actually. It never once crossed my mind. No, it's never once crossed. I think it's a kind of Marky Smith thing. It's like, when I die, I'm quite happy for Comet Gain to continue, and I will let the rest of the band know that. But they they have to start writing the songs. Unfortunately, which I've been saying for many years. Could someone else please maybe write some songs? But yeah, why not? It's an idea rather than yeah. I mean, the only time I've ever wanted to break up is just so I could do one of those we broke up and then 2 months later, we're back, let's do a big show. Kind of like to get more people to come to the next gig by saying like the reunion show or something.
I was going back and looking, and I think the first and last time that you and I spoke was you had a solo record out.
Yes, I think I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, and I not to be like super crass about it, but there's just value in having a name that people recognize, right? I mean, it's hard to get your music out there now. And
Yeah, I actually had the when we were recording the album that we just put out, and we were recording with Sean Reed, who's probably not very well known in America. He was in this, he's in Dexys Midnight Runners, who been in England and plays with Edwin Collins and produced many really good bands. And his first band was this band called the Rocking Birds, who were the English, very London, very English version of the Flying Burrito Brothers, with a kind of mix of Jonathan Richman, the Modern Lovers.
So kind of country.
Yeah, kind of country, but nobody cared about country music in England at that point. And they kind of but they did it in a kind of Dexys. They were very also influenced by Dexys and Jonathan Richman and so on. And they were, I think they were on Creation Records for a while. So they were part of that scene, that kind of indie scene, but totally different. And Alan Tyler, who's the singer, he wrote this book very recently. It's very good. When we were recording the album, there was a blueprint, wherever you got before a book is published,
galley.
Yeah, whatever you call it, of his. And in between you, because there's a lot of waiting around when making a record. And I was reading this book. I know a lot of the people involved, and I like the band, so I was interested in it. And his main thing, and his kind of like main rule of rock and roll, as it were, was like always keep the name of the band go. Even if it's like just you, because that people need that thing to kind of like latch onto. And so because he kind of like they did the Rocking Birds, and then it was like Alan Tyler solo, and then he changed it to the Sons of Littlefield or whatever. And it's like, each one probably sold less and less and less because nobody just knew who he was. There was nothing to kind of, but if he always made it the Rocking Birds, it would kind of somehow persevere. I don't know if I agree with that, but yeah, it's probably a good idea. Especially if you're a band that doesn't sell many records, you need all the help you can get. Yeah.
Why was it important on that record that the name change?
For what? The solo? Because it was just me.
For the solo.
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Well, one, it was because I just wanted that thing of, I want to make a solo record because I like solo records. Some of my favorite records are solo records by people in bands, like John Cale or Julian Cope or Mark Eitzel or whoever it is. It's going to be slightly more personal. It's like, it's going to be more from, there's like, I need this to be solo album because it's from my soul or whatever. And also because I was here and there was no way I could, half of Comet Gain actually play on the record, but that was more of a kind of like asking, and Laura and James and Ben from the band, do you mind playing on it? Because I trust them. But it kind of, I just kind of, wanted to make a solo record, and it didn't seem like a Comet Gain record. I think the songs didn't seem, I hope Comet Gain records are more kind of universal and emphatic with like, on a new record, it's like, it's kind of like, hey, everybody, we're all in this together. It's not, but, there's a kind of, it's not so insular or introverted. But that solo record, it was like, I'm just going to sing songs from my own kind of point of view. So it just seemed a bit, I might as well make it a solo record. Yeah.
It's funny, you mentioned that book, and then I was, as you're saying that, it occurred to me that Ian also kind of wrote a book about being in bands.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, which is it's an interesting side of things. Is that something that interests you? Kind of, I guess, sort of writing prose, but giving some insight into your very long time doing this.
I don't know. I do these. There's a Patreon page. I don't know. I started doing it because now I have to keep doing it, and for very little reward. And I quite enjoyed this thing of like, I'm just going to write about, pick an album for one of the Comet Gain albums and just write about why this happened. And I don't know. It's just, yeah. When you're in that world, when you're unfortunately, at some point in your life, you're in a world, whether it's software managing or or being a professional sports star or something. You are in that world, and that world consumes you, and that's what you think about, and you have an idea. You have a viewpoint, an outlook on that world, and you know you share it, and other people that are also in that bubble want to read about it because this is my bubble, and I want to find out more and see other people's opinions. I think it's just as simple as that, really.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder how helpful, I guess, like a handbook would be right now, because things have changed so dramatically that it's probably hard to give insight into, people just getting started today.
Well, I mean, if I wrote a handbook about, and there was my friend Chris Applegren, who
Oh yeah, Lookout Records, yeah.
Lookout Records, Peaches, also Comet Gain, who helped with the cover of the album. We're thinking about doing maybe a kind of book thing, images and photos and writing, all kinds of different things, Comet Gain, whatever. And it's kind of like, our point of view from his experience and my experience is totally different from what the accepted point of view of how you run it. I mean, I think that's maybe the only thing of value I could offer is that it's like my way of thinking about how you do a band or why you do it and how you do it is totally alien to every other class. It's like, first of all, it's like you don't care about fame and money and any acceptance. Is that is just the last thing you give a shit about. So I think I have an angle that is maybe probably unacceptable to most people, but different, certainly outdated, because it's like, who does the same things we do? I mean, the way we got signed is to a label. The way basically the reason why I'm still talking about music is because, and don't forget, we could not play instruments. We couldn't, we had no fucking idea how to do anything. Is that we supported the television personalities who helped us because they all come from that same DIY kind of background. And I knew Daniel, and he just let us play a gig. And I imagine absolutely terrible because we didn't even know how to turn on the amps or anything like that. But there was something about it. It was chaotic and it was, crazy. And Gary Walker, who ran Ouija Records, who was at Huggy Bear, and it was kind of like a subsidiary of Beggar's Banquet. And Beggar's Banquet had Bauhaus and Go-Betweens and Gary Newman. And he just I think he was probably very, very drunk. And he just liked the attitude, the fact that it's like we couldn't care less. And I think the second gig, it was a totally different band, apart from me. And I told the rest of the band to start playing this song by Dexter's Men at Runners. And most of the band never even heard of it. They didn't know what the song was. And we just did it. And he was like, yeah, I want you to make a record. And I don't think that could possibly happen anymore. And we made a record and then we continued making records. But if it wasn't for Gary Walker saying, drunkenly kind of looking at us and thinking, this is either the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, which is probably most likely, but there's some kind of spirit about it, punk rock, or that makes me want to put out a record either, just to see how mad it's going to be, or maybe it's going to be great. Who knows? Let's just try it. Let's gamble. And I cannot imagine that can happen anymore.
The more we're talking about it, the more I realize that the futility in writing a handbook for anything is, especially something like music, it's really one-to-one. You can only really write the handbook and how to have been successful, or not even successful, but to do what you did.
Well, it's not advice. I mean, I actually, I wish I have a copy with me next, but on the album we just did, in the inner sleeve, and I take great importance with the inner sleeve. I think the inner sleeve is an important thing. I kind of write down the kind of Comet Gain rules of outsider rock and roll, whatever. And that's one of the things, no, whatever I say, you should do the opposite, basically, because that's the thing. Wait, depending on what you want, do you want to be successful and loved by men and women all around the world and be rich? If so, do the opposite of what I have done, and you should be okay.
I don't know if you read it, but Larry Livermore, who was one of the, or maybe
I
the
remember
founder of
I've met Larry a few times.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he wrote a book
Back in
called
the
How
day.
to Ruin a Record Label.
Right, I've not read it. No, I didn't know he'd written a book. Right,
Yeah, but that How to Ruin a Record Label, that's kind of like, I feel like that's kind of in the spirit and what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. I mean, even people, I kind of find him a bit of a old bore and a hack now. But even people like Alan McGee, that it was just this. I don't think Alan McGee expected to become a millionaire or whatever he is. It was just the exhilaration, let's see what happens. And also, it's also about the time, the time and the place. I mean, he was very lucky in that it's this insane kind of psychedelic punk London scene, and all these things just fell into his lap, like the Jesus and Mary chain and whatever. And it either works or it doesn't. I mean, there's a million stories of people who maybe had the best intentions and these amazing ideas, and it just never worked out. So luck I mean, the fact that I'm sitting here 30 years after playing a show that no human being could ever enjoy, because of music that I somehow I'm continuing to make, is a miracle in itself. So,
Did you have any particular ambitions early on?
No, to make one record. No, to make one, to play one gig and to make one record. That was kind of like, that would be good. If we did that, yeah, fair enough. And I'll just drift into obscurity, and one day, in 50 years, maybe that single would be worth like £20 on Discogs. And, no, it was literally like, what's the word? Sit by the seat of the pants, just moment by moment. And it was like, oh, okay, we have to make another record. We have to write songs. We have to find, and it just carried on like that. And it kind of still is like that. I mean, I have no idea. Yeah, I think our new record is quite all right compared to some of them, but I have no idea if tomorrow Tapete Records, who have been very good to us the last few years, are just going to say, yeah, I think we're going to say goodbye to you. It could be, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, we'll see how it goes. I've never worried about it, basically.
It sounds like this idea of just playing one show and or releasing one record, that there was an appeal in the obscurity to you.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was one of my favorite things was there was this record by this on very early Creation Records by this band called Meat Whiplash. I don't know if you've heard of Meat Whiplash.
I haven't.
And they had one single from the entire career. It's great. It was very Jesus and Mary chain. It was very punk, noise, feedback. And I think that's like one of the perfect records, because they just made this one record. You don't know anything about them. There was like a grainy picture of them on the back. There was like a badly photocopied picture of the man from Uncle 60s TV on the front cover. And it was just this glorious, noisy song, and they disappeared. And that to me was like, that's perfect. They didn't fuck it up. They just made this brilliant record. No one who knew who they were, and they left. They left the building. So that's great.
That only works if you get hit it out of the park the first time.
Yeah, obviously. And if your first Melody record is terrible, yeah, you're fucked. But we're still waiting for that hitting it out of the park moment. But once that comes, that's it. But maybe that's the end. Once there's a good record that I can go, yes, that's a good one.
Do you feel like you're getting closer as you continue? You don't know. It's hard for you to gauge.
Every record we make, I think, I've got an idea for this. This could be a good idea. And we do it, it comes out. 90% of the time, I'm like, that's not anything like what I wanted, or not wanted, but obviously, it has to be different. This is probably the only album where it actually sounds kind of how I had it in my head. But that doesn't mean it's good. It just means it sounds like the idea I had in my head. I don't want to get comfortable. I don't want to be like, yeah, this is exactly what I want. I know it sounds exactly what I want. Yeah, that would be horrible, I think. It has to be. I think you have to kind of react to it and go, oh, the next one has to be different. Most probably doesn't sound like it, but every Comet Gain album, these not singles, but album, is a reaction to the last one and how we fucked that up. So we're going to do this instead. So yeah.
The secret to a long career is making bad albums.
No, it doesn't. No, because that's I mean, I should say, but a lot of the time they're much better because of the. I mean, we did this album.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Every time you want to make it better, so that's going to keep you going. Like that's the motivation because you didn't hit perfection.
What I've got in my head definitely doesn't mean it's better. It just means. I've done one before this one. I wanted it to sound really fucked up, really lo-fi and falling apart. Because the one before that was quite, we used strings, for fuck's sake, and pianos and harmonies, and it was very quite more melancholic, and the songs were a bit more crafted. So it was like, okay, the next one has to be like all, totally falling apart, mess, noise, angry, whatever. But it wasn't quite enough of that. There was still some pop songs and things like that. So yeah, you're just thinking of that, like, okay, so the next one has to be this. But your initial idea might be terrible. It might be the album Realists. I don't know, was it fourth album, third album, whatever it was, which people seem to think is one of our better records. The pink people, the five people that think that. And at the time, it was like, this is totally not what this is wrong. We messed this up. But because of other people in the band, including Chris Applegrim, it's way better than my initial idea or whatever I thought. So, that's good.
Have you been able to take an album like that, go back and reconsider and appreciate the things that you didn't appreciate when it came out?
Yeah, it usually takes like 5 years. I don't really listen to it. Unless I have to we're playing a song from it and I have to listen to it to actually remember what the chords are. I don't tend to revisit them, but if I do, or I think it's like, oh yeah, I took it because you always take it very seriously at the time. It's the most important thing. Yeah, this is it. This is maybe the last, because every time we make a record, it's like, this is probably the last time we make a record. I remember reading about, Arthur Lee, and he thought Forever Changes, which is a beautiful record, was the last record he'll ever make, and he was going to die. And I think that's how you should approach every record. It's like, you're going to make this record and then you'll die, so you might as well put everything into that. But so it's like, at that time, it's really vital that you do it the way you want to do it. And then it doesn't work out. It never works out like that, especially if you're not a very good musician. And then 5 years later, it's like, it doesn't actually matter. It turned out this way instead. So, that's, if people like it, that's all that matters. That's the thing. It's like, whether you like it compared to like other people liking it. So there's things I really don't like that we've done. And other people have said to me, that's our favorite song by you. So then it's like, okay, well, that's all that matters.
This has actually come up in the last 2 interviews that I've done. So I don't know what this says about me but over the past decade, it seems like there are multiple examples of artists who knew that a record was going to be their last record. Like Bowie's the obvious one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then Warren Zevon did a really fantastic record on his last record. How does, obviously, as far as I know, you haven't gotten bad news from your doctor, but
yeah.
Like,
how do you never go to him?
Yeah. How do you approach something like it's your last?
But I don't know, like, what do I have to say? I don't know. Every now and again, I do think like that. But I think there's a thing of like, I know it's probably not. So you try to fool your brain into go, this could be the last record I make. But there's the other part of the rational side of you goes like, no, it's not, don't be stupid.
Like, this is the only thing you really know how to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have done, I think, I'm sure, especially on the solo record, I think there was quite a few songs of like, if this is the last song I wrote, I'd say, like, there was a song for my son who's 9 years old, kind of thing. Like, because maybe I'll never get to say these things in a, So I think you just, I do what Arthur Lee does and just pretend that it's the last thing you'll ever do. No, but then it becomes quite, doomy. If anyone who thinks it's their last record is probably going to write quite, gloomy words in the songs because they just reflecting on life.
I don't know if you had a similar. I assume that you're a Bowie fan, like most people in the world.
Oh,
but
yes, very much.
It took, it took me a while to really be able to sit down with that record for that exact reason.
I've never listened. I've been really, when I grew up, when I was in my, from the age of like 8 till 12, there was a friend of mine at school in Austin, and I used to go to his house and we would just listen to David Bowie non-stop. And that's all we cared about. It was David Bowie. And it's only then that I was like, I'm a musician. I think I found a Birds album. I fell down the burn. But I didn't really, it's terrible. I say I'm a huge Bowie fan. I haven't heard any records of his after, I don't know, Let's Dance, but an occasional song. And I quite like that toy, because it was like songs from the 60s redone. But no, it's not listened to a whole late David Bowie album. Because I don't think I need to, because I don't think it's going to give me the same thing that when you're 15 and you hear Aladdin Sane for the first time, it has a profound effect on you. If you're 45 and you listen to Heathen or whatever, it's just going to be either think, oh, that's all right, or it's not. It's not going to affect you or connect with you in the same way.
That's kind of the double-edged sword of constantly changing through your career is, you will lose people along the way. It's inevitable.
Well, there also is that thing of use of like, when you're young and you need to belong to something, the music you listen to is 1,000 times more important. And when you're older, you're listening to music because it's like, well, it sounds a bit like things I liked when I was young, or, it's very rare for you to kind of find, I'm 55 and I still I enjoy listening to new music. And, a recent new band I quite liked was the band Yard Act from Leeds. And I realized that kind of, part of me was going, yeah, I see, I like new music, and my son likes it because it's quite, but it was like, yeah, because it sounds a bit like The Fool. And he's and the lyrics are very good. That was the main thing I liked about it, is that he has very good lyrics, and I like it when people sing in an accent. He's from Leeds. It's very erudite. But I know there's a part of me that's saying to you, the only reason you like this is it sounds a bit like Wire and Fool. So you're back again. You're back in your teenage years, and that's why you like it,
Yeah, that's part of it. But also, there's a reason why you specifically like those two bands. It's because you like that kind of music.
Yeah, yeah. But it's that thing of like older people that are obsessed with like, need to find new music, and that's a very, very good thing. And, I don't want to just listen to Neil Young and whatever, Suicide. So, you're constantly searching out new music. And I have friends like that who are like, I don't listen to that cry. I listened to that when I was 20, so I want to find a new band. But there is a part of you that's just like, yeah, but those new bands, you like those new bands because they remind you of the bands because you found a sound. You found a sound that's important to you. And there aren't that many new sounds. It's not, I don't know many of my friends who will suddenly get into some totally new genre. Because it's like, that's not for us. It's where, it's unfortunately, that's the case. It's like, that's for the youth. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
If not Bowie, or maybe Neil Young, is there an artist for you where you feel like you need to listen to everything they put out at least once?
There's quite a lot of, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You latch on to these people that you feel like explain a part of you that have, yeah. And then you want everything from them because you feel that connection. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Neil Young is the same. I haven't listened to a Neil Young record since whatever. I'm glad he's still going, and it's great and everything. But what I needed from Neil Young, I've already got. I don't need anything else, and I doubt that the new Neil Young album is going to offer anything new to me to make me go, wow. It's just sad facts.
But lyrically, I mean, I do think that there is a power in, not listening to a bunch of 19-year-olds who don't have life experience and getting somebody who's your age and who can actually sort of speak to you.
Lyrically is different. I mean, lyrically, there's, one of your own American lyricist, Mark Heitzel from American Music Club. And I used to hate his voice, and I used to not be a huge fan of American Music Club sonically. It was quite a lot of effects pedals and stuff like that. But I couldn't get over his lyrics, and his lyrics were just incredible. If you just wrote out his lyrics, the poetry and they're very melancholic, which always helps. And then I really enjoyed his voice because it's something that it's like Jimmy Webb is another singer-songwriter where he's got a very bad voice, but there's something about the fact that he's got a bad voice, but you can hear that he means what he's singing, and there's a connection. So
David Berman is like that for me, because he's very monotone. It took me a long time to get into him, but obviously
because he's erudite and he's fantastic. So then after a while, you forget, you don't care about the fact that maybe you don't secretly like the voice. I mean, I actually do now find my person's voice, except for when he's shouting, very beautiful. But it was all to do with the lyrics. It was like that was the important thing, and everything else was kind of like icing on the cake, or whatever. So I still buy anything he makes. I'll still buy. I really like that. I'm an English guy, grew up a mod, but there's these American artists like Willie Vlortin, who was in that band Richmond Fontaine, and this is D-Lines, and he writes books. And I think his lyrics are just incredible. And I didn't like his voice either. It was quite too deep or whatever, kind of American-y, but it was just like, but his lyrics are so good. I just want to keep buying his records because I just want to hear and read his lyrics. So, it's whatever you get out of it. But there's also other bands. I mean, I really like a lot of the kind of Tropicalia Brazilian music, like Gal Costa, and I haven't a clue what they're saying. The lyrics are completely nonsensical to me. But the music is something else. So it's whatever you're getting from the thing you're listening to, whether it's lyrically or rhythmically or the sound. I like a lot of weird psychedelic music, and the lyrics are usually terrible. But there's those sound collages are really good. So it's it's just whatever you take from each thing.
Congratulations, getting Allen Ginsberg to write your press release.
I don't remember. I mean, probably not a massive secret, but I write the press releases usually in a pub or something. I really genuinely don't remember signing it off Allen Ginsberg. I don't know if that was
it said Allen Ginsberg, Bordeaux, France.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a joke from the label or I just was like, maybe I had a couple of beers. Of course, I exhumed the spirit of Allen Ginsberg and he spoke to me. That's the actual real story. We are in contact. I'm in contact with the spirit world. And I have many conversations with Kerouac, Brautigan, Ginsberg. We have a good laugh. Probably have a chat.
Hopefully young Kerouac and not 60-year-old.
No. Older Kerouac, because it's more,
old Kerouac.
It's more fun.
Salty Republican Kerouac. Yeah,
he's more fun. So probably tonight I will glasses of wine and have a chat with those guys about.
Yes, I had a Burroughs for me.
Yeah, I will.
You talk a little bit, and I know it's very very hacky to talk about album titles, but you or Alan describes this a bit in the write up, and this idea of the ordinary outsider. And what I'm wondering is, obviously, you know, we kind of talked about this throughout the entire conversation about those people you meet when you're 15, you know, who really set you on that track, who become friends for the rest of your life. But how do you, you know, at this stage of your life, especially now that you are, again, living in the forest, how do you stay connected with those people?
With difficulty. I mean, you just not, you don't expect the same thing. I mean, you know, the good thing is, as a man in his 50s, I don't expect to go to concerts every night and, you know, go to the pub and let's go, you know, the things you would do to stay connected with your friends, you know, that is no longer necessary. So you just have this kind of long, arm's length connection, which is deeper. It's like, you know, John Slade, who used to be in a band and having a band and stuff. I love John, his oldest friend I have. I will probably see and speak to John once every 2 years at the moment. But it doesn't mean I love him any less, or we don't have this. And when I do see him, it's becoming more important. I mean, yeah, you just, and unfortunately, occasionally you will drift from people. It's just part of life, but you still remember how they meant to you and so on. And then out of the blue, they reappear again, and like, hey, it's just, that's what's part.
That's what I'm getting as I'm getting older. Yeah, it's something that I'm like, that I'm appreciating, is discovering somebody you knew at a different point in their life, and basically discovering a different person.
I'm getting that quite a lot, and it's like that thing of like, that's more sporadic when I go. I mean, we're playing in Glasgow, Scotland in a month, and I will surely see a lot of people that either I'm still kind of in more or less constant contact with, the constant, you know, on Facebook and stuff. And I'll probably see people there I haven't seen 15, 20 years or whatever. And it'll probably be exactly the same. And it'll be very nice. And I won't be like, oh no, I won't feel regret. So like, oh, I wish I could see them again tomorrow. It'll just be like, every now and again, if you have that little, hey, you're alive and I'm alive and we're still great and we still like each other. That's good enough when you get to a certain age. It's when you have to start going to everyone's funerals. That's where it gets a bit.
And what you wear, you even wear in bed. Threads. Carnaby Street, Topshop, Primark, eBay, Camden Market, in its heyday, for every weather and for every mood. Threads. You need them and you wear them, covers you all day long. Now you're too fat to wear them, too old to care about them. Threads. I can tell who you are by looking at your line of threads. I have photos of some that are gone. That John Smedley was really a nice one. And what you wear